Good evening, Canada and the rest of the world. Live from Bauhaus Studios in beautiful downtown Port Credit, it's the Tom and Rick Show for Wednesday, October the 7th. On tonight's show, musical guest, singer, songwriter, and Juno nominee Samantha Martin. From Pixie Blue Studios and Ivy Mail. Guest for our special segment tonight, Feeding Port Credit, is Slavica Bisilias. From Los Angeles via remote, drummer to the stars, Randy Cook. Also tonight, Cooking with Carson and Riffing with Rickford. And now, your hosts, Tom Barlow and Rickford Van Dyke.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Tom and Rick Show. Rick, how are you? How was your week?
Episode 20, I think. 20.
Is it 20?
I think it's 20.
25th, we should do a party or something.
Yeah, or bloopers, the ones that we can put on without the profanity.
Bloopers. Yes.
That guy's a lot of profanity. My week was great.
Now you have a big show coming up, flying to Calgary to do a show.
Yes, we're doing a show on Saturday night in Calgary, sold out.
Nice.
Right? 300.
And how are they doing it with COVID and all the precautions? We don't want to get Trumpy.
No, jeez. There's a hotel in Calgary that's called, it's a Ramada, and they have two buildings basically facing the pool deck on top of another hotel. And they cover the pool deck and everything, and the people they're social distance around there, and they buy their rooms and watch from the balcony.
Oh, they watch from the balcony, so everyone's in their own bubble.
Everybody has their own food, their own drinks, their own washroom, and
fantastic.
They watch from the balcony.
Metal on the pool deck.
I'm doing my Sandman show there. I can't wait to get to Calgary and rock the West.
That is exciting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you know from the news, the numbers have been going up. And the weather has been getting colder.
Down.
And a lot of people are feeling a lot of fear and anxiety about that. So we think it's a good time just to remind you, but a couple of people we've had on the show and a couple of organizations. One is when Bill Bell was here, he spoke of the Unison Benevolent Fund. Mm-hmm. Please check that out. We'll put a link if you are feeling in need. They provide counseling and social services free of charge to people in the music community. And also our friend Ace. ACE is really great, has a really great program called Over the Bridge. And Over the Bridge is to help with people who have dependency issues. Check it out. It is a online conversation you can have. They have virtual meetings. So let's take care of ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have an amazing show this week. We have two fantastic women from Feed Mississauga. They have produced 14,000 meals for hungry people in Mississauga. Look forward to talking to them and about their initiative. We have Juno nominee Samantha Martin. She is a force. She's a fantastic singer, great performer. We have Ann Ivy from Pixie Studio in Port Credit. We get a lot of musicians, but there are other arts. And she has an art gallery in Port Credit. We're going to talk to her about art in a COVID environment. And finally, we're going to do our first Zoom meeting. We're going to discuss... Interview, yes. Yeah. Better than meeting, yes, interview. We are going to discuss music and COVID and rock and roll with Randy Cook, one of the finest drummers in the country. Legendary drummer, plays with Ringo Starr, plays with Mick Jagger. His list is like this long. So we have a really great show for you. And Rick, what is happening for live entertainment in Port Credit?
Live entertainment in Port Credit starts on Thursday. Thursday at the Shore is going to be Mr. Barlow. Bring a blanket if it's cold. But I think the weather's going to be really good this week.
Yep.
And Friday at the Shore, it's Killing Time. Saturday is Mike Ferfolia.
6:30 starts?
Yeah, 6:30 starts. And what else we got? Oh, Tim, so of course, he's not in Port Credit, but he is a big music supporter, and we want to support him. So at Timothy's on Wednesday, it's Greg Wired, and he's 6 to 9:30. And it's me on Thursday with my thing called Chris Van Reed.
Fantastic trio.
It's a trio of us. Chris Van Reed, that's us, 7 to 10. And Friday is Tony Paglia. He was on the show doing the undercovers.
Love Tony, always
He's
great.
so great. And he'll be from 7 to 11 on Friday. Saturday, it's Barlow. He will be at the Timothy's, 8 to 11 Saturday. Sunday, it's David Love and his band, 6 to 9 on Sunday. Also at Spice, it's Rocky and Sarah on Saturday. That is a big, big day.
That's a big week. And you know what? We don't know how long we're going to be able to do this for. So please come out and support live entertainment, the musicians and the clubs. And we thank Les Weller for making these cool cups.
Yes.
Got my name on it. It's
So
really
you
great.
know- so
If
you
you
know.
want one of these, let us know and we'll figure out if we can make that happen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tom and Rick Show. a great hour or so of entertainment and insight for you, and we will be right back. Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If there's one positive note, I know there's many positive notes, but if there's one positive note in this pandemic is that people are really stepping up and they are doing things for others, because there's a lot of people under stress right now, financial stress, emotional stress, etc. We have here with us the founders. Are you guys the founders? The founders of Feed Mississauga. Their mission is to ensure that no one in the city of Mississauga goes hungry during this pandemic. Please welcome Slavica.
Yes.
Hi.
And Joanne. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Now,
Very well. Thank
tell
you.
us a little bit about first of all, about Feed Mississauga, and second of all, how was it that you guys one day decided, you know what, there's people in need and we needed to help them?
Well, if I may, Feed Mississauga is an initiative of Twas the Bite Before Christmas Foundation,
Okay.
which has been in existence since 2009. This is our 12th year.
Nice.
And we were always taking care of, with our funds that we would raise, of Food Bank of Mississauga, Eden for Food for Change, Compass, and many other associations. And this spring, when the pandemic started, we realized that comparing to March of 2019, donations and money funds for Food Bank of Mississauga went down 44%.
Wow.
Just for the month of March.
Yes.
And there was a huge need, and with the pandemic, there were a lot of people with a compromised health, seniors, people in need, reaching all across Mississauga, trying to find a way how to get around, how to get food,
How to help.
Yeah,
Right.
or how to help as well.
And did you guys know each other prior?
Yeah,
I work for the school board.
Okay.
And quite active in a lot of the functions in Port Credit area. So I have met Slavica at a few previous to Feed Mississauga.
Right.
yeah. Actually, Twas the Bite Before
Twas the Bite,
Christmas.
yes.
Right.
Joanne has been a volunteer, dedicated
I'm Gravy
volunteer.
Girl.
Yeah.
For many, many years, I'm Gravy Girl.
Oh,
And
man,
At
I
our,
love you.
Twas the Bite
Now,
finale
I want a
dinner.
gravy girl.
now what are the priorities for you guys?
Apart from what you just said as well,
Yeah, like if someone were watching right now and they wanted to be involved, they wanted to help in some way, what are you guys looking for? Is it more volunteers? Is it cash donations? Is it food donations? What sort of, or is it all of those things?
all of those things, right now we need funds.
Okay.
At the time that we started Feed Mississauga initiative, we formed Feed Mississauga website and the GoFundMe page.
Yes, GoFundMe.
And anybody can still go and we promote that.
Really simple to do. The GoFundMe is
exactly
the best thing on
It's
Facebook
really,
to get.
our website
funds.
is really easy to access. It's really
Yep.
easy to navigate, and
Okay.
there is right there. It's self-explanatory.
And you don't have to use
easy read.
you don't have to use PayPal with GoFundMe. Some other online things
That's right,
they use
exactly.
PayPal. Like not everybody has PayPal.
Sure.
So it's
So,
really
and we'll
good.
put the link to
Yeah,
the
we'll put the
GoFundMe
link up
page
there.
on the screen, and we'll put it on the Facebook note as well, so people can go there and get some funds.
Perfect.
I have a question too. So you ladies aren't at home cooking all these meals yourself. Can you mention some of the venues and restaurants that have helped donate the food for Feed Mississauga?
You should tell about our very first experience, our
Yeah.
very first day.
When we started, we formed Feed Mississauga beginning of April, and the first initiative was very local because we wanted to learn
Support.
and support local businesses who are in need, as well as to put them on a spot, like meaning they're open, they can help you.
Sure.
So the very first spot that we did, first initiative was My Secret Kitchen
Oh yeah,
in Port
in
Credit.
yeah, right.
And that was just
There was
Joanne.
three of us.
Joanne, myself, and Corey, who is also a local business owner, realtor. So Corey
Harding.
myself, Corey
Yeah.
Harding, Joanne, myself, and Lauren as well. Lauren
Yeah,
from
she's been on the show. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So that was it. That's how it started. Another one is Amazing Grace, also local business owner, charcuterie boards. I don't know if you ever tried them, but she does
Okay.
an amazing boards. Who else? Feed, restaurant Feed. They just
The Feed,
opened.
yep.
Yes, the Feed. They just opened in March, just
And then
before
the pandemic hit,
And then the
yes.
pandemic
And what a
Yes.
great way of promoting somebody who really just started.
Right.
So
Yeah.
at the same time, they were creating these meals for us at a very low cost. Still, we would pay them. So they will,
Well,
bump.
that seems like a win. It's a
Exactly.
win all the way
It's a
around.
win-win
You get to
situation.
support them and you get
Community,
to
helping community.
Yes.
They're out there soldiering around, and we're just doing a TV show for the community, but they're actually soldiering around.
Yes, doing it.
Doing it.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, these women, I think you're supposed to say women now. I'm terrible at this stuff. These women are working very hard for the community. Please donate at their GoFundMe page. And the website is feedmississauga.ca.
Right.
right.
We commend you for what you're doing. The
Yes.
community needs it, obviously. Thanks for telling us what you're doing and how to help. And we hope you'll come back, maybe around Christmas.
And
There'll
we'll get-
probably
For
be
the mug.
another
Yes.
time. And we will have a
get
custom, not custom.
Did you
we'll
want
have a mug for you.
Did you want Rick on it or Tom on it? We'll figure that out.
Maybe
You
there'll
want
be
a record?
some mugs by then. Yeah.
We'll give you. We'll have thousands.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Shore Grilling Grotto, it's a sure thing.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Tom and Rick Show. Delighted right now to have a powerhouse soul, R&B. There's rock and roll in there. I've seen her play many times. In fact, we did a little tour together. We have Juno nominee Samantha Martin. Samantha, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming in. Now, I know you have an album on the way, a single on the way. You have been very busy. Can you take us back to the spring is coming, and I'm going to be playing a bunch of shows, and then suddenly you get a call from management or record company that says it's all not going to happen. How did you survive that emotionally, musically? What did you do?
Well, I ate my feelings for the first couple months. But basically, we were very fortunate. Delta Sugar and I had come off of February tour of Canada.
Great timing.
Because who doesn't love to tour in February in
my
Canada?
God.
In most circumstances,
Yeah.
I would say, what are you thinking? But now, genius.
Genius.
Can I sorry to interrupt, but she was talking about touring. So you're not the only one. Like, it seems that every tour I've had is in January across the country, which is great. But when you hate the cold, and then this year before COVID, I actually had a tour that was across Canada in the summer, and COVID happens. Boom! I know what it's
Can't
like.
win for trying.
So, were you creative in this time?
Well, and this is the thing. So we had come off the tour. We had recorded in fall of last year. So we recorded the record in fall of last year. We were supposed to have the record come out in May, and then COVID hit. So there was a lot of, watching all my plans for my record just disappear. Tour plans, record release plans, everything just got put on hold. I, to be completely honest, was not feeling creative at all.
Right.
Some people were.
Some people were.
Yeah,
and
I
hey,
was-
man,
I was not.
all the more power to you.
Yeah, I was not.
But I was in the, took me a little while to get out of the funk, but by the end of May, I was back at, okay, well, when can we?
Right.
What should we do? And that's when, we spent a lot of time mixing the record. We took a lot of time mixing the record because we had it.
Right.
Which,
That's a blessing, because usually you don't.
usually you're just like, oh man, we got to get this out, and you rush the mixing, you rush the artwork, you rush everything, and so the time afforded me creative room in that aspect, which was a beautiful thing. And
Cool.
So now my creative is getting into how am I going to creatively release this record with no tours to support it. So I'm using my business creation brain.
Right.
That side.
Now tell us about the new record. Tell us about how it's different and how it came about.
So this new record, it definitely expands on what we did on the last record. So in 2018, we released a record called Run to Me. That was the Juno-nominated record.
And what category was that in?
It was nominated in the blues category.
Amazing.
Yeah, because what I do is vintage soul, vintage R&B. So I can't compete with the likes of Rihanna and...
Nor should you.
Nor should I, and so I'm not put in the R&B soul category as it pertains to R&B soul.
Right.
In a contemporary sense.
Sure.
So I end up in the blues category because there's just not a perfect category for what I do. And, so we came off of that, and this record builds on it, and I think expands more into the Ike and Tina Turner review style soul,
Right, yes.
and a little less of the Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, a little bit more of the rock and roll edge.
Right. Well,
Rock and roll.
That it's the people are about to hear you sing. I don't care what you do. There's rock and roll in it.
Yes,
There's rock and roll in it. It's
we heard the
just
sound check, and then I was like, power!
yes. That's coming up shortly. Now, I noticed that almost all of the songs on the album are original songs, written by you or with you and other people.
Yes.
But you picked a Dylan cover, which seemed very interesting to me. Why did you pick that song in particular, and why Dylan?
Okay, so number one, we had gone into the studio, we had some extra time at the end of all the sessions, and rather than just throw it away and waste it, we
Might as well
thought,
use it.
why not use it?
Yeah. Sure.
So we started trying to play around with some of the covers that we do live, but I was hearing like the band just didn't have the soul, like they weren't feeling it. And I feel that sometimes artists tend to do like a lot of covers and then they sort of grow old about it.
Right, yes.
So I thought, well, let's do a song that we've never done before that is very, at the essence of it, quite a simple structure, but that we can play around with
Right.
the treatment
Sure.
of it. And Bob Dylan's Meet Me in the Morning is a song that I have been, that I love. I love Blood on the Tracks. It's one of my favorite Dylan records. And the beautiful thing about a great, well-written song is that you can bend it to genres. And
Sure,
so
ask
we,
Jimi Hendrix or the Byrds.
Exactly. So we took Meet Me in the Morning and we gave it this Meters, Howlin' Wolf funk take. It's a really cool version of it. Humbly speaking, of course.
Right,
Cool. Cool.
it is a very cool version of it, I'm sure. Now, you are going to play a song for us this evening. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So the song that I'm going to play is called Loving You Is Easy. It's a song that's personally, like, I fell in love. And for once in my career, I'm writing a song about love sticking around
Right.
instead of
Right.
love leaving, which is generally what I tend to write about. So I fell in love with somebody, and I wrote a song about sort of that process of falling deeply in love with somebody and how scary it can be sometimes.
Love in a COVID time.
Love in a COVID time.
All right, well, very excited. Let's have a listen.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this song is one of mine. It's called Loving You Is Easy. It's going to be on the new record coming out November the 20th. My heart skipped a beat when I first saw you. Should have took more time to be fair to you. But we kept faith and we saw it through. Now every day I get to hold you. It heals my soul. Loving you is so easy. And I knew right from the start. Loving you is so easy. It'll leave me with a broken It'll leave me with a broken heart. And loving you is so easy. And I knew from the start, loving you is so easy. It'll leave me with a broken heart. Loving you is easy. Loving you is easy. Loving you is easy. Loving you is easy.
Wow. Wow, man. What a voice.
If I didn't have a hat on right now, my hair would be blown back. That was really great. Now, that is a song on your album, but it is not the new single. You have a new single about to drop, am I correct?
I do, and so I'm sure all the viewers are wondering why I chose to play that
No,
song.
I didn't bring it up for that, you know.
Not at all.
We
But,
were discussing sometimes songs work solo and sometimes you need your fantastic big band.
Yes.
And but
This one transpires on
Yes.
by
Yeah,
one
that-
guitar,
Translates,
right?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
translates.
so we released a single on September 18th that's out called Don't Have to Be.
Okay.
And then this next single that's coming out on the 9th is called I've Got a Feeling. And it's this incredible blues ballad. Aretha Franklin, Etta James comes to mind.
I
that
want to hear
kind
them
of vibe.
all.
I
Too bad
know.
we can't have a 12-piece band back here.
I know. Well, I mean, there is space.
There is. There is.
But yeah, we have another single coming out on the 30th of October called Sacrifice.
Fantastic.
as well.
And how can people find you online?
Online, you can find me at SamanthaMartinMusic.com or Roots and Roll on all social platforms, and it's ROOTSNROLL. So
Okay.
Roots and Roll, kind of
Roots
like
and
rock and
Roll,
roll.
right.
And that's your website, or is that?
That's
Yes, all the socials.
all of my social
Instagram.
media
Oh,
handles.
okay,
So
right.
it's Samantha Martin and Delta Sugar, but the handle is Roots and Roll.
We will put both of those up on the site. Now, is there anything we missed? I know you're so busy. You have a special announcement about a special announcement.
Yes, I have a special announcement about a special announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we are really excited, but we can't announce it right yet. But please tune in to all of our socials and check back at our website. We are going to announce our album release show with live stream from Toronto at a wonderful venue, and we're really, really excited. But I just can't say it now.
Can we be there? Because I want to be there.
I at least want to stream it.
You
I
can
wanna see
definitely.
it.
There's 50 people allowed in the room, and
I'm one of them.
And you can be one of them, and definitely check back at the websites and socials.
I'll bring my
for
mug
that.
and go, excuse me, I have, excuse me, this is my pass.
I'm
excuse
press.
me."
I'm press.
Yes. We
Press
need the little
pass.
card on the hat. Ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, this has been Samantha Martin. Wow.
Wow.
Make sure you check out all of her socials. Keep an eye out for her new album and new single on the way. Thank you very much for coming in today. It
Yes,
was great
thank
having
you very much.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We just found out, we found out yesterday that Eddie Van Halen, a legendary guitar innovator, a rock and roll star, has passed away from cancer. And Rick, I know he was a big influence on you.
Yeah, I do. Everybody that knows me knows like I don't play a lot of Van Halen guitar. Just can't, because he just had a really unique feel to me, and playing his stuff always sounded weird because I was playing it. And like one of the best feel players, innovators, tappers, but mostly for me out of Eddie Van Halen that I got was his incredible feel as a guitar player. And I think it was because his brother was a drummer.
Right.
But he started on drums before his brother took over.
Right.
And this is always one of my favorite compositions that he did. Other people have other things, but for me, it was this one, and it's a piece of little guitars. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Thank you for everything.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Tom and Rick Show. We're doing something we've never done before. We are trying an international interview, and we're doing it with an international star. His name is Randy Cook. I'm just going to give you a quick. This is not even
Because
a 10.
it would be the whole show.
It would be the whole interview.
The whole
Would be
interview.
like, great shit Randy Cook has done,
Yeah,
right?
all the stuff that Randy's played with.
We'll just hit you with a few things. He is the drummer for Ringo Starr. He has worked with Mick Jagger, the Eurythmics, Melissa Etheridge, Julian Lennon, Taylor Hicks, Kelly Clarkson, Billy Ray Cyrus, and I believe Tom Morello. Is that true as well? Tom Morello?
Yeah, from Rage.
If you can do Billy Ray Cyrus, Kelly Clarkson, and then the guy from Rage Against the Machine,
That would be Randy Cook.
and Hannah Montana, am I correct?
Yeah, I did some recording on that on one of the CDs. Yeah.
From Hannah Montana to Rage Against the Machine, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to introduce you to Randy Cook. Randy Cook, how are you doing?
Great, doing great, guys. Tom, Rick, nice to see you boys.
Nice to see you.
Nice to
Thanks
be here.
so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. Now, I would love to hear stories about many of these people, but I'd like to begin with just saying whoop.
Nope. Well, he's gone. Stories, he's out.
He's back. Tell us a little bit about how the transfer from, you're probably doing big TV shows, you know, you've done the Leno and the Letterman, you've probably got all kinds of stuff booked, tours, all the rest of it, sessions, and then suddenly the world goes quiet. How did you manage that transition?
Well, the part that you can't manage is when all of that live work goes away. So that just happens to you. So you automatically shift into a different sort of survival mode. Luckily, I've always been able to live two lives, playing live and touring, and I have a busy session life in the studio. And it's about 50-50 for me. The grass is greener. Sometimes I wish I was touring more. And then if I'm, on a bus or in a hotel room, I'm like, oh man, I wish I was home, in the studio. But at least the studio stuff never went away. In fact, on its own, it ramped up a little bit because people started to realize, well, got all this spare time. I got these files sitting on my hard drive, and I've always wanted to finish that song that I want to. So there's a bit of that. In terms of the, everybody, all musicians that I know took a hit in terms of their live playing. So there's no getting around that. You're not escaping it. So the shift was a lot of the guys that weren't doing studio work went, you know what, I'm going to buy some mics and some emulation plugins, and I'm going to set myself up now in the spare bedroom or in the garage. And they started making themselves available for more work. And so, I pivoted also. I started teaching a little bit more online and things that I wasn't really doing a lot of, I'm doing more of now. And that's pretty much it. I think that with the
And you have a talk show. You're a talk show host now. As well?
Yeah, I'm a co-host. It's Adam Gaynor from Matchbox 20, formerly of Matchbox 20, has his show on Creationville, and I'm his crazy nutty co-host. And so,
I'm a Randy.
Now, speaking of in studio, you get to be in studio with some of the people who have created the greatest rock and roll in the history of rock and roll. And the name that jumps off the list for me is Mick Jagger. Can you tell us about what it's like to be in the studio and, are you calling him Mick? Are you calling him Mr. Jagger? Like, how does that whole thing roll?
No, you definitely get, it was a 3-day session in Tarzana, California at my good friend Mike Bradford's studio, who you know well because he produced one of your CDs.
He did, yes.
Such a brilliant, musician, writer, producer, player.
And an intellectual. Very neat.
Yes, smart. What a smarty. But this session came together predominantly because of Dave Stewart. Mike was kind enough to pull me into Dave's camp, and then Dave was kind enough to pull us into this session. So he basically
Dave Stewart
used,
from the Eurythmics.
yes, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, you get to be on a first name basis. I mean,
I like how you just called him Dave. Dave from the Eurythmics. Yeah, Dave just called me. Go ahead.
So we had a couple of fun moments. I mean, one of the funny things I remember was iPhones had just come out. And I remember Mick being in a room off of the studio. It was kind of a kitchen area. And he was kind of having an issue with this. He didn't really know how to get to a certain place on his phone. So I got to help him navigate a little bit on his iPhone.
Phone tech.
A little phone tech. And there was a moment which was very, very crazy where Mike was, of course, producing and engineering along with Dave as a producer, but Mike was like manning the controls. And he had to step out of the studio for a quick 5 minutes, and Mick was standing out on the live floor in front of a mic, kind of in the middle of doing a vocal take. And Dave's sitting on the sofa, and he realizes that Mick's just standing out there by himself, waiting for, we don't really know how long. And Dave says, Randy, do you know how to work Pro Tools? Can you run that? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, Mick's ready to sing. I'm not going to do the accent. Mick's ready to sing. You know, he's like, can you go punch him in? And I excitedly and reluctantly said yes. Oh, no. So I get behind I get to the desk, and, my hand's like shaking a little bit. Sure. All I have to do is press space bar to start playing the track and the number 3 key to put him into record. It's really all you have to do.
Tasks.
But I could feel my hand shaking a little bit, and I had to, I got to like press the talk back button and say, Mick, are you ready? And yeah,
we're ready. Ready for a chat. Are you ready?
Right. Yeah. Rick does a great accent and the lips. And so I got to punch him in and, for a couple of vocal lines. And then, of course, within 5 minutes, Michael walks back in the studio, and I leap out of the chair, relieved to be out of the highest pressure situation I think anybody can.
So what have and this is like blowing my mind right now as I'm even about to ask you the question, but everyone is like the Beatles or the Stones. You work with a Beatle and a Stone.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about, and this, it seems so crazy, you play drums sometimes when Ringo is playing drums with you. Ringo, what is it like to be on stage, first of all, backing Ringo, but even more mind-bogglingly, to play with and beside Ringo?
It's pretty surreal. Like when you think about it, when he was always on my left side, and looking over, it's crazy because in your head, what's spinning through at 1,000,000 miles an hour are all the images and video images that you have, like growing up and.
To Ed Sullivan, all of it.
Did you'd be like, there's that sideways hi-hat thing.
Yeah.
And
to add to the nervousness and sort of anxiety and pressure of all of that, we didn't rehearse in Los Angeles. I know Ringo lives in LA as well, but he was already in the UK. So the band rehearsed in LA, and then we just met him at soundcheck at the first gig. Wow. So it was like walking out on stage, 2 drum kits, you know what I mean? So it was like extra nervous and extra pressure. But to clarify, I know that I just want to say this because I want you guys to know, I was never technically Ringo's drummer. Like Ringo had an all-star band, and yes. my good pal and ridiculously talented drummer, Greg Bissonette, has been in the all-star band for decades. Like he's the guy. But Dave Stewart was writing Ringo Starr's solo record called Liverpool 8. And Ringo wanted to separate the promoting of that record from his all-star touring because it was a different thing. So Dave just kind of said, why don't you use my band? And so just by proxy, by proxy, yeah, you said it exactly like Rick. By proxy, we all got to be on this gig. And it lasted, I mean, it lasted a few months. We did every major television show. And I mean, I could fill the rest of our time just with stories about those television shows because there was some crazy stuff. You know,
did you get some time with Ringo the Man? Did you get to, you know, how you doing? I love that thing you do. Like, what was the relationship between the two of you?
He was, his sense of humor is extremely sarcastic and dry, which I love. Like, you know, we didn't spend a lot of time just one-on-one. He was always surrounded by a legion of, you know, his Dave Stewart and, you know, so you got Dave Stewart, you know, his pal and his co-writer, and you got Michael Bradford, who is MDing and you know, running the musicians part of it. And then I think his lawyer was always hanging around. He had a videographer, a photographer, always. So there was this little entourage that would follow him around. But there was a moment where we were doing the Larry King show. And of course, first of all, to do the Larry King show with a band is unheard of. Larry King predominantly just did interviews.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we performed on the Larry King show. So they didn't have like a musician's dressing room. Like they didn't have a green room per se for us. So I think they put like a cheese cube tray like in a little office somewhere. And I was as any good working drummer, I was at the cheese cube trough, you know, shoveling cheese cubes into my gob. And it was a very small room. And I had my back to the entrance and the rest of the room. And I turned around mid cheese cube and Ringo's just sitting on the sofa, just watching you, just hanging out. And I realized, oh, it's just me and you. And I was kind of looking at him like, pretty exciting, huh? And he's like, yep. And I was like, well, it's amazing that we've, you know, never done a show like this. Have you, you know, and we had a little chat about shows like Larry King. And then there was a knock on the door. And it must have been like a young intern that worked on the show. And he had a snare drum in his hand. And he's, excuse me, Mr. Starr, would you sign this snare drum? And he's, yeah, sure. Come on in. So he signs the drum. And as soon as the door shuts, he goes, that'll be on eBay in 10 minutes. we both laugh. And I think, you know, he was joking, of course, but there was a little bit of truth to the fact that he knew that sometimes, you know, you don't know whether a fan's going to just keep the thing that they love that you signed, or they see some kind of monetary value in it, and you don't know if.
Sadly, that's what it's come to.
And I'm sure he's seen so much of that. Of course, you're going to be a little jaded. I mean, he was a Beatle.
Now, Randy, you know, you grew up playing where we play. You grew up in Toronto playing all the clubs.
Did.
Played in Port Credit.
I did.
have a ton of stories about playing with you. I always love playing with you. But what advice would you give to, say there's a kid coming up, he's 21 years old, he's a great drummer, and he says, one day I want to be on these TV shows and play these stadiums.
Play with these artists. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one, because as the gray starts to come into the chin, I have absolutely learned from so many of my own mistakes, trust me, how to navigate the best way you can to sort of establishing yourself and networking and all of that stuff. And I think the best things that I could impart would be, you know, never make it about the money. I've noticed a couple of guys like, what should I charge? You know, I've never done a session. What should I charge? Like, no, you shouldn't even be asking that question. You know, be happy to be there.
Right.
They'll pay you what is fair and what they can, and you should say yes. If you're beginning and you're starting out, you should be exposing yourself as much as you can. So do as many gigs, whatever it is, just say yes.
Because you never know.
You know, navigate yourself between, obviously, you know, you think, well, but I don't like country music, or I don't like hard rock, or I don't like, well, it wouldn't, you know, it's not going to kill you to be seen as that person that can negotiate between genres or learn.
Exactly.
You can have
That's
a
where the
favorite.
benefit.
You can have a favorite.
Right.
But we've all seen guys that are known for one thing, but are amazing at other things, and that broadens your chances of working more and becoming. So
I mean, this coming from the man who can play with Hannah Montana and the guy from Rage Against the Machine, you certainly have put your money where your mouth is. But you also, I mean, you are a side guy with all of these legends, but you also have your own projects. Tell us about your own musical projects, what they are, and what makes you say, I have creativity that I want to unleash on the world.
It's so exciting. I like because it's been a long time. I do spend my life as a hired gun, playing so many different kinds of music. But my new project is called Red Lad, and I stumbled upon these guys. They were visiting from Moscow, and I was just a hired gun on a session for these tracks, and I thought the music was amazing and poppy, a bit of rock, bit of pop, a little bit of programming. And I kept in touch with them. And I don't think a lot of the guys that they met in Los Angeles kept in touch with them. And so that's another thing, is to always, I think anyways, keep relationships open, because you don't know how that's going to end up 5 years, 1 year, 10 years down the road. So they still live. The three of them still live in Moscow. I'm here in Los Angeles, and we already have released our first single and first video. The video is over 100,000 views on YouTube.
And how can our viewers find that video? What's the website?
They can just search Red Lad Music on YouTube. We have a channel, and of course, it's smattered in my Instagram, and it's easy to find. Yeah, so it's the first single. The video is such a beautiful production. It's unlike much of what you've seen. Some of the comments have been like, wow, finally an actual artistic video, as opposed to guys and they filmed it in Moscow, but I make a cameo in a very interesting way, and I'm not gonna tell you how, but if you look, you'll find me.
We'll put a link to that for sure on the screen so people can find it, and we'll put it on the Facebook lead. But I know you're a busy guy. You probably have to play with some big rock star right now. But where can people find you personally?
Easy. Online? The two places that I think are the most fun are my Instagram site, which is just @RandyCook, and my YouTube channel, which is with an E. I had road cases made when I was playing with Rick Emmett years ago. In the time when we could afford big road cases and put them on big trucks, I had huge letters, Randy Cook with an E, painted on my cases.
Nice.
Well, Randy,
yes.
It's like, it is so great
I find,
seeing you.
Wait, we're not leaving them yet. Did I find something you said interesting? Now, did you know, this is interesting, did you know that every drummer, and how long have you been in like the States? How long have you been there?
2004. It's easy for me to remember. So 16 years.
2004 till now, people still come up and go, I know this drummer, he's wicked. He's just like Randy Cook. Did you know that?
You're the bar now.
Did you know that?
No.
Like there's so many people.
There's
like
a Randy Cook meter.
Like he's like Randy Cook, man.
Do
I? He must be great.
I owe a lot of money. I probably owe a lot of money to people, and I try Randy Cook. That's what I hear.
Thanks so much for coming, buddy. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much.
We urge our viewers to check you out online.
Thank you.
The Randy Cook, the new project you were just discussing.
Thank you.
And we hope you'll come back and talk to us again.
This was so fun. Anytime. Tom, Rick, you guys are awesome. What a great podcast.
Randy. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Woo!
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We have a very interesting guest for you this evening. Her name is Ann Ivy Mail, and she is the president, CEO, and grand poobah of Pixie Blue Studio. Now, we talk a lot about music on this program, but there are lots of other arts. There's painting, there is sculpture, and so on. And it's great to have someone from the art community here. Welcome, Ann, to the show.
Thank you, Rick.
How are you
Thank
doing?
You, Tom. I'm doing great. Thanks
Now,
for having me.
I had a list of questions to ask you, but just when we were getting you settled in, you said that you were just coming from your first, was it art therapy session?
So I run classes with Community Living Mississauga. I partner with them. So we have been doing art classes for individuals with different abilities for the last 3 years. And because of COVID, we had to put it on halt. So from March to today, we couldn't do the classes in person, and they were experimenting with Zoom, which they hadn't gotten to until today. So today I did a combination of seeing one student in the studio in the morning class, and then in the afternoon class, we did a Zoom session with 5 other students.
And what are the benefits? How do you see that this is working and inspiring people?
Yeah, so I mean, art, I've always found art to be a great way of channeling just mood energy, and with individuals with special abilities or intellectual disabilities, sometimes it's not recognized that the innate creativity in them.
Right.
So having a program like this, I've gotten to know these students over the last 3 years, and I've seen the progression. They're all different, and they all have a way of expressing themselves. So it's a good way to build self-confidence. I had a couple of art shows for them in the studio where we invited the community, we invited their parents, and when they attended and their artwork is on the wall in a gallery, you could see how proud they are.
What an unbelievably beautiful thing.
Yep.
Cool.
So,
I love it.
So the process is beautiful and inspiring, and then at the end there's a show with their art, and they get to be stars.
They
Really.
get to be stars.
That is really great.
Yeah.
Now, if you could take us back to, you start this project, you start an art studio in Port Credit.
Yes.
You're involved in the community, you're on the BIA, and then we have this pandemic.
Yes.
How did that affect the studio? How did that affect the work that you do?
Sure. So a lot of the things I did in the studio, so we had art shows that represent artists. We did the classes in studio. I did workshops, watercolor workshops at restaurants. So all of that came to a grinding halt. And it was a little stressful, and there was panic mode for a little while. But I was actually fortunate because I had, prior to COVID, set up myself so that I share my space with another business. Just economies of scales work out. And our landlord was amazing. So when we approached them and said, like, look, we're not sure how we're going to maneuver the next few months, they said, don't worry, we will apply for the government support. You take care of a small portion of the rent through COVID, and then we'll regroup.
Well, thumbs up to that landlord.
They were amazing.
Because not all landlords are like that,
No.
and the
And they
ones
should be.
that are, we need to really,
It really saved
support
us.
those
It
arts
saved 2
is
businesses,
important.
really,
Music.
because
Right.
we probably would have had to shut our doors.
Wow. Now, you are also a musician and a big fan of music.
I am.
Talk to us a little bit, and Rick and I were talking about this off camera. Talk to us a little bit about how you see the relationship between art, visual art,
Yes.
and music.
So there's always a connection on all arts, the visual, the music, the dance, anything that inspires people to come together and feel good through the arts, I think is important. So I play music. I play for fun in a band. I played guitar since I was 14 years old. It just makes me happy when I play.
Yeah.
So you were asking me earlier of that connection, and Southside Shuffle has always been something I love being in Port Credit to be a part of. Since I had my studio, which is 3 years now, so every year during Southside Shuffle, I had an art show, and I invited musicians that I work with, artists that I work with, to kind of bring me pieces that was music related, and hung the work, had a show, invited the community to come and visit, and it was a great success. And this last year, I contacted the Shuffle and mentioned that I was doing it again. The show was called Music in My Veins, because I feel as a musician we have the music in our veins,
Great title,
right?
love it.
Yeah, so the Shuffle was amazing. Chuck Jackson actually did visit on opening night. And after that, during Street Shuffle, we were invited to bring our gallery to the street as a mini studio.
That's
which was
amazing.
so much fun.
And that's something, we had the guys from Umbretta. Remember those guys?
Yep.
Great. We
Yep.
went over to the restaurant
Yep.
and a great meal. Tell us about your connection with Umbretta.
Umbretta. So again, part of my passion with the art and artists need a place to display their work.
Sure.
So they have the opportunity at my gallery, but I also looked at restaurants and the fact that people go out to dine, they sit, it's a nice atmosphere, you start looking around in
Captive
conversation.
audience. Yeah.
So I approached Frank and Anthony and I asked them if they were interested in having some of the artists showcase, and they were all over it. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now as well. Also had it in other locations like Noble Bistro in Oakville and Trius and Aim in Browns Line. They're not around anymore, but so I had 3 venues that I could put artwork in.
Really great.
Yeah, and the great thing with Umbretta is then we came up with the concept of doing watercolor and vino nights. So prior to COVID, we were having watercolor events in their restaurants. So they would do the food, and I would bring the watercolor artists, and we would have like a table of 12 people sitting together painting.
Oh, the before times when we could do these
before
beautiful
times.
things.
And we need to get back to that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I hope that that we get back there sooner than later.
Yeah, 'cause-
Now,
Yeah.
now, Rick, you
It's
and I
good.
were talking about your relationship with music and art.
Yeah, it's very interesting hearing you talk about the artist and they paint a picture that music inspires them to paint. Well, for me, it's backwards. I see something and it inspires me to make music. So it's a pretty good connection that
Yeah.
I didn't really realize.
Maybe
I was
we
like,
should
wow.
do a show, songs inspired by paintings, and we can complete the circle.
You know
Yes.
what? I'm on board. If you want to do that, I'm there.
Now,
Sure.
now
Absolutely.
for our viewers at home or
Yes.
wherever you are, viewers,
Yes.
What would you like them to know about Pixie Studio?
Yep. So I feel like Pixie Blue Studio, since I opened, has really become a creative hub for our community. I know all of the other creative businesses in Port Credit. We've actually banded together and we support one another through the Port Credit Arts Collective.
Okay.
So there's a group of us. We meet, we put on events, and the whole goal of the studio is to have a place for artists to showcase their work, to have a place for the community to know that there's a vibrant arts community. And for me, especially my heart and soul passion is to have an opportunity to grow the creative wellness aspect of art.
Well, I think that's beautiful.
Well
So
said.
people can find you. What is your website so people can
So
find
the
you?
website is pixiebluestudio.com.
Okay, and we'll put a link up. And,
yeah,
and
thank
also,
you.
you just said it, I wrote it down there, the Port Credit Arts Collective.
Yes.
Is there an online presence for that as well?
So we have Instagram and Facebook for that as well.
Okay, and
Yeah.
we'll dig
put
up
those in.
a link for that. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing such interesting things for artists in the community.
Yep.
Really fascinated and
Thank you.
inspired by the work you're doing where art is therapy. I think that's beautiful, and please let us know next time there's an event like that, because I would love to see
Oh, for sure.
the art that's being created through that program. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing what you do. And please go and support the studio and Anne, what she's doing some really great work. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cooking with Carson. You know there's veggies too. Cooking with Carson. Beets and carrots. Food.
Good job, guys.
Hey, thanks for that fantastic introduction. This Cooking with Carson. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. Thanksgiving weekend, big holiday in Canada, and one of my favorite times of the year. I remember my son being born 4 years ago on Thanksgiving Monday. So big celebrations this weekend for us. What I'm going to do today is talk about some side dishes that you might be able to make. Super simple. I'm going to show you how to make mashed potatoes. Everyone has their own mashed potato recipe, but this one's kind of foolproof way for some of my friends that aren't great cooks or don't like cooking. And what I have in front of me is a medley of root vegetables. What I did, I have some different colored beets. I have some traditional red beets. I also have some candy cane beets, they're called. They just have kind of a white vein going through them. They look pretty cool. And some golden beets. Now, a lot of people don't like beets. These purple ones have the more earthy flavor. The other ones are a little more sweet, and they have less of that earthiness, if you know what I'm saying. And I have some fantastic carrots. Remember, with root vegetables, you can eat the whole thing. You can eat the frond as well as the vegetable itself. The skin, lots of nutrients in there too. What I did was I parboiled these, and then I'm going to roast them in the oven. But before I do that, I just want to add a few flavors. I have some fantastic champagne vinegar. You can use white wine vinegar or balsamic vinegar. If you are using balsamic vinegar, if you have the white balsamic, I think that it just makes it a little bit nicer. It doesn't discolor the veg. I'm putting it in this bowl just because if I was to pour it on here, it would just kind of drown it and pickle them. And this step, this is actually optional, but I just think it just really wakens up these veg here, especially the beets that are really sweet. It just gives it a bit of that, you know, that sweet and sour, but it's definitely more on the sweet kick. I have some extra virgin olive oil. Let's put a little bit here. Coating the veg. This is going to help them glisten and have a really nice look to them. And of course, some salt and pepper. This is my pepper and some sea salt. Just wake up those vegetables. You don't have to go in the oven very long. I have my oven at 350. And some herbs. I have some beautiful thyme here. But what you can do is if you have these straight sprigs here, you can pull off the leaves just like that. Okay. And I grabbed some of these from there, right from my my herb garden. I'm just going to let them fall in there. And some of the other sprigs, if you have them that aren't, just kind of lay them across. And I'm going to pop this in my oven just for about 20 to 30 minutes. And they're just going to kind of roast up, just give them a little bit of caramelization and add some depth of flavor. Okay, guys, I'm going to talk about one more root vegetable, one of the most famous of all, potatoes. What I did was I took my potatoes and I cut them into quarters, a size just about like this here. Okay, these are Yukon Gold potatoes, Canadian Prince Edward Island potatoes. Okay, what we want to do is boil them until we can kind of mash them, they break them up, but they're not too hard. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them kind of air dry so all the water comes out of them, but they're still hot. And in my pan, I'm going to put in some butter. I got like half a stick of butter, lots of butter. Butter means flavor. And at this point, this is when you're going to want to add some garlic or some herbage, okay? I don't have any garlic with me right now, so I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to get this nice creamy butter. I'm just kind of frothing this up. And I'm going to add to it some chives. I've cut some chives here. I'm going to use half of them for now. Okay, before I put the potatoes into the pot, I'm going to use this ricer here. What the ricer does is it pushes the potatoes through and puts them out like a fine grain of rice. I'm going to add them into the herb and butter mixture. And see how it pushes it right through like that? This is called ricing. And it's just going to scrape the side. So I'm going to do this with all of the potatoes and then get them all mashed in there nicely. And this is going to give you the creaminess mixed with the butter. It's going to give you perfect mashed potatoes. Okay, guys, potatoes are ready, except for one thing. I've been slowly adding in some cream. I'm just going to put a little bit more in here. This is a 10% cream. Cream gives it its creaminess. That's why they call it cream. I can just stir this in here. These are fantastic. Just take my word for it. Try these at home. Listen to the stirring noises and trust me. I'm going to use one of these silicone spatulas. And I'm just going to move over here, put it in this bowl. You know, a lot of us, we prefer the side dishes at Thanksgiving, and this is one that I could probably eat all by myself. Fantastic. Mashed potatoes. Nothing super fancy here. The key is cooking the potatoes. In Canada, the best ones you're going to get is Yukon Gold. Cooking them properly and not overcooking them because it releases these starches, and that was the problem that I often had when I first started making mashed potatoes. I got some of these chives over here. Just sprinkle some on. It's just a garnish. It's just BS, right? And then in the oven, my roasted veggies. Check out these. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful beets, beautiful carrots. Nothing beats that. And I'm going to plate these up. Just look for the Barlow serving utensils, okay? And I would display these just on a cutting board like this. A lot of the foods we eat at Thanksgiving, like the turkey, well, the turkey, not really, but mashed potatoes, squash, they all have the stuffing. They all have like this, like they're made for seniors without teeth, right? Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. There's not a lot of texture, but these veg have a lot of crunchiness to them. Some beautiful flavors. Look at these carrots here. Just nice and orange, caramelized. Sticking to the foil, that's a good sign. And these beautiful beets here. I don't know. I think this meal deserves a thumbs up. Here we got some beautiful root vegetables, some mashed potatoes. I got a real thumbs up. This is fantastic, guys. This year I lost 95% of my income. I lost all my gigs, almost all of them. And I will say that I have still so much more to be thankful for than I have more to be thankful for than to be disappointed with. This year isn't about this, it's about this. There's always amazing things, amazing people in your life to be thankful for. I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. Back to you, Tom and Rick.
Les!